Good morning, students. In the last class of this chapter, that is Rise of Socialism and Russian Revolution, we have done the meaning of the term socialism and the difference between liberals, radicals, and conservatives. Next topic we are going to do is Rise of Socialism. And here we are also going to study about several people who contributed in the rise of socialism in Russia. By the mid 19th century, socialism became popular and attracted many in Europe. Robert Owen, Louis Bank of France, Karl Marx were some of the great socialists of this time. When the socialist ideas spread in Europe, they formed Second International, which is an organization, an international body to coordinate their efforts. We have done that. In Russia, people wanted a change. There were liberals and radicals who wanted the society should be changed. They wanted the end of monarch, and also they wanted that the people should acquire wealth through their hard work, or those who do the hard work, they should have the wealth. These kind of ideas spread from one country of Europe to another country, and all these people who had the same ideas, who wanted to follow the socialism, they have formed an international organization which is called as Second International Organization. Let's go to the next slide. In Germany, which we have already studied, children, that in Germany, associations worked very closely with the Socialist Democratic Party, which helped the party to win seats in the parliamentary elections. Even in Germany, the people were inspired and political organizations were formed under the name of Socialist Democratic Party. It became so popular that it got many seats in the elections. The socialists and the trade unionists formed Labour Party in the year in 1905 in England. These things had spread from one country of Europe to another. So in England also, these socialists have formed a party called as Labour Party. According to the name, it seems to be a party of the workers. But in reality, it was not so, which you will study later, that why in reality it was not so. Now going to the next topic, that is social reformers. Just now we have taken few names. Let us read or study about these people who brought a change in the society. Robert Owen, in Britain, a Welsh textile manufacturer, philanthropist. Now what do you mean by philanthropist, children? Those people, those who work for the welfare of the society. They don't get any profit by doing so. So such people are called as philanthropist, and social reformer was one founder of utopian socialism and the cooperative movement. He is known for efforts to improve factory working conditions for his workers and promote experimental socialistic communities. Children, in European countries, whichever country it was, there was a lot of social change during the industrialization. The new cities were coming up, new industrial regions developed, railways expanded, and the industrial revolution also occurred. At that time, there were so many men, women, and even children. They were attracted towards the factories to work over there. But working hours were very long and wages were very poor. And even unemployment was very common, particularly during the times of low demand for the industrial goods. So, when many people flocked or many people have come to the cities to work in the industries, there were so many other problems in the cities. Housing problem was there was a problem of sanitation, etc. And liberals and radicals tried to search solutions for these issues. Under this man called as Robert Owen, he tried to improve the factory working conditions because they were very unhygienic conditions in the factories. So they were trying to improve these factory conditions and also fought for the workers so that the workers can get the better wages. The next person we are going to talk about is Louis Blanc. In France, oh, just a minute. Okay. Louis Blanc in France, he belonged to France. He wanted the government to encourage cooperative and replace capitalist enterprises. Now, he wanted a different type of a government. These cooperatives were two associations of people who produced goods together and divided the profits according to the work done by the members. He wanted that there should be cooperatives. Now, what do you mean by cooperative? And capitalist. Capitalist means capital, money. Those who had large amount of money, they used to rule. They were the owners of all the resources in the country. So he wanted to shift this kind of country from the capitalism to a cooperative society. Cooperatives means where few people, it's not necessarily only two associations, it can be many. Few people, few associations will work together and they will produce the goods and they will also share the profit among all the members. That is what is a cooperative society. So he wanted a government where it can be a cooperative government. Next, we talk about a very famous philosopher and economist, and that's your Karl Marx. He believed that to free themselves from capitalist exploitation. Just like Lewis, he also believed that in the country there should be an end of capitalist form of government. I'm repeating, what is capitalist form of government? Capitalist form of government means a government which is only ruled by the rich people of the country. That is your capitalist form of government. So, Karl Marx wanted to end this capitalist form of government, and workers had to construct a radically socialist society where all property was socially controlled. And he said that all the resources of the country that should be equally divided among whole society. This would be a communist society. So he said this would be called as a communist society where all property was socially controlled. So all will control that property, whatever property is there in the country. It will not be in the hands of only few people. He was convinced that workers would triumph in their conflict with capitalists. He also believed that if he will start a revolution with the help of the workers, they will definitely win over the capitalists. That is, now this is a fight between the rich and the poor. So he believed that if the poor workers start a revolution, they would definitely win over the rich capitalists. A communist society was the natural society of the future. So he named this kind of society where all will have the equal wealth, all will be able to control the wealth equally. Such kind of society he believed, and he called it as communist form of government. Now, after reading about these philosophers, let's move on to the next topic, that is 1.2 from your book, which is Industrial Society and Social Change. All the three people just now whom we talked about, all these three philosophers, they all worked for the welfare of the workers. Why? Why is it that? What was happening with the workers? Just now I told you that there was so much of socio-economic change and there was a lot of development in the cities. Why there was development in the cities? Because of industrialization. We all know that industrialization began in Europe. So a lot of men, women and children were pushed into factories. There were railways expanded because the workers had to come and go to the workplaces. So the railways were expanded. But as I told you, there were so many problems for the workers. The workers had to work for long hours. The workers were given very less wages, and there was so much of unhygienic conditions in the working place. There were no proper housing system for them. Sanitation problems were there. Poor wages were there. Long working hours are there. Unemployment was there. And these people, liberals and radicals who wanted change, they were educated and they were owners of some factories and wanted more profits. Radicals and liberals worked under the aristocracy. Again, aristocracy means aristocrats, the rich people. They were called as aristocrats. So these liberals and radicals, they had to work under the aristocracy, which they never liked. They had to work, liberals and radicals, they had to work under the conservative regimes. That is, they had to work under the conservatives. They had to work under the monarchs, which they never liked. They wanted, they were also rich. Radicals and liberals were also rich, but they never wanted to work under these people. They wanted to be independent in working and also earn wealth. Coming to the continuation part, it is support for socialism in Europe. Socialists were against private property. In the beginning of the chapter, we have done that the socialists were, what do you mean by socialist? I told you, it is the equal distribution of the wealth or the resources in the society. So they were against the private property. They were against that few individuals will have all the property of the country, and saw it as a root of social evil. And they said that this is the evil of the society which should be removed. They had different visions of the future. Some believed in, but these liberals and radicals, they wanted a change. They wanted socialism, but little difference was there in their thinking. As we have done the three philosophers, some wanted cooperatives. That means few groups or few companies together should work and they should share the profit. Some demanded that governments must encourage cooperatives. Socialists formed an organization called Second International. Just now I have mentioned about this organization. So these socialists of Russia, when their ideas had spread to the different parts of Europe, they formed an international organization called as Second International to spread socialist ideas. Workers in Germany and England began forming associations to fight for better living conditions. So it was not only in Russia the people wanted a change, even the people of other parts of Europe also wanted a change in the country. So even in Germany, the workers formed their parties, political parties. In England also, the workers formed their own political parties. So that means people wanted a change in the society. That is what. In Germany, Britain, and France, these workers formed associations. In Germany, these associations worked closely with Social Democratic Party and helped it also win their parliamentary elections. They set up funds for members in distress, reduction of working hours, and right to vote. See, whenever a political party want to win elections, you all know that they give us so many promises. And some of the parties fulfill those promises also. So by doing so, they win the elections. In the same way, in Germany, the Socialist Democratic Party also had given the promises to the workers that they will help the poor to get the work, and they will also reduce the working hours of the workers and also will give them the right to vote. Because of these promises, they had won the elections in Germany in 1905. Now, we are heading towards the next part, children. That is your Russian Revolution, part 2 of your book. Now, actually, we are heading towards the story of Russia. Till now, we were doing a general part of Europe, that how the societies were there in the Europe and who were radicals, liberals, and conservatives, and what kind of change they wanted. Now, let's go towards the Russia, that actually in Russia, what was the problem? What kind of society was there in Russia? So let's read about the Russian Empire in 1914, before the Russian Revolution. We are not talking about the revolution here. We are talking about how was Russian Empire in 1914, which was prior or which was before the Russian Revolution. In 1914, Russian Empire included, you can see in the map, children, there is such a big empire there was in Russia. This whole part you can see, which is with the red color, this whole part, children, at that time it was Russia. Now it is not this much big part, because we'll do that also in the later part of the chapter, because later on it got disintegrated. But earlier it was such a bigger part. So countries like Poland, Finland, on the large parts of Transcaucasia, all were included here, which are now many of them are separate parts. Now Poland is a different country, Finland is a different country, like that. So the majority of the 166 million population were Slavs, like we call as there were different types of people over there who followed the different religions. So most of the people there in Russia, 166 million, which is the majority population, they were Slavs. But some were Jews also, which we studied in the even the Hitler's chapter, we studied Jews. So some were Jews also, and some were Turks also. So different groups of people lived over there. So ethnic groups. We call them as children ethnic groups. Different groups of ethnic groups were there. Slavs were there. They were Jews and they were Turks also. And so many other nationalities were also living over there. But the maximum were Slavs. Just like when we talk about in India, the maximum Hindus live in, if you go to Pakistan, the maximum population will be the Islamic religion people. Same way we have the Slavs in Russia. Tsar Nicholas II. Now we are talking about the emperor, the king of Russia in 1914. He was called as Tsar Nicholas II, ruled Russian Empire as an absolute monarch. In Russia, there was absolute monarch. Children, all these terms you have done in French Revolution. Absolute monarch means king who will have all the powers with him. Whatever decisions he wants, he can take. He doesn't have to consult anyone. So that's the absolute monarch. So that kind of society it was. So how was it? How was the economy? How was the society at that time? Most of the Russian population, about 85% of the people at that time were agriculturists. They used to do the agriculture. Industries were being set up, which was mostly private property of industrialists. Any society, children, you take India or in England, France, America, any society you take, in the beginning, most of the people were engaged in the agriculture only. Slowly, there was shift. Once the industries were developed, few people from agriculture sector started shifting to the industrial sector, which comes under the secondary sector. So that way, in the beginning, even in Russia, 85% of the people were the agriculturists. But slowly, when the industries were set up, they people, not all, few people shifted to the cities. But industries were absolutely the private property. That means only the rich holded these industries. And workers were divided into groups, but they did unite to strike work when they were dissatisfied. They were different, the workers were divided into groups based upon their skills. The workers were divided, but whenever it was required, whenever there was the workers had to do any kind of an agitation or a strike, they used to get united. Peasants had no respect for nobility, very unlike the French peasant. And peasants who were in the villages, they never respected the nobles. We all know in French society also, we studied French Revolution, where we studied that nobles had all the lands and the peasants had to work under them. And peasants never respected these nobles. Same thing was there in Russia. Russian peasants were the only peasant community which pooled their land and their commune divided it. In Russia, peasants later on during the revolution, they have taken their lands back from these nobles and divided among themselves. Which we will study later on also, again about the peasants, that how they have taken the lands. Coming to the continuation topic, socialism in Russia. All political parties were illegal in Russia before 1914. We all know that Russia was under the monarch, that is the king, Tsar Nicholas II. So at that time, making any kind of political party was illegal. The Russian Socialist Democratic Labour Party, it was formed in 1898. The party was formed, but they could not work openly because it was illegal to work openly. It struggled to give peasants their rights over land that belonged to nobles. This party, that is the Russian Social Democratic Labour Party, they used to fight with the nobles also so that the peasants can get their lands. As land was divided among peasants periodically, later on, after the struggles were keeping on going, finally, from the nobles, the peasants had taken the lands and they were divided among themselves. And it was felt that the peasants and not workers would be the main source of the revolution. So, as land was divided among peasants periodically, which makes them natural socialists, it was felt that the peasants and not the workers would be the main source of the revolution. For one time, it was felt that because the peasants had won their revolution in the villages, they were able to take back their lands from the nobles. So, at one time, the people in the country believed that the peasants should take initiative and do the revolution, not the workers. But it's not so. All did not believe in the same thing. Lenin, another great leader from Russia, did not agree with this as he felt that the peasants were not one social group. Lenin said no, only the peasants cannot bring change in the society of Russia because peasants were not one social group. So that was the thinking of the party. Which party? Russian Socialist Democratic Labour Party. So in the party itself, the people had different views. In the party itself, the people had different views. Some thought that the only the peasants can get the start the revolution and they only can get the justice for the country. But few people like Lenin, they felt no, peasants were not one social group. So they cannot get us the, and they are not united also. So they cannot get us the correct revolution for the country. And Lenin also said that some peasants were poor, some are rich, some worked as laborers while others were capitalists who employed these. So they cannot together do this movement. So because of these different thinkings, this party called as Russian Socialist Democratic Labour Party got divided into two different organizations. The party was divided into Bolsheviks and Mensheviks. The names are the Russian names, children. Definitely you will get such kind of names here. So it was called as Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks. The party was same, but because of the different views, the people had to, the party got divided into Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks. So let's see what are these Mensheviks and the Bolsheviks. The Mensheviks is a party which represented a minority group under the leadership of Alexander Kerensky. Kerensky also is a famous name. They believed in gradual change and establishment of a parliamentary form of government like that of France and Britain. Menshevik's leader was Kerensky, and this group believed that there should be slowly change in the society and there should be a parliamentary form of government. Like in India, now we have a parliamentary form of government where the decisions are taken by the parliament. So he wanted such kind of a society where there can be a parliamentary form of government. They favored a party which was open to all and work within the system. Now, Kerensky and his party, that is the Mensheviks party, is an open party where anybody can join. Coming to the Bolsheviks party, the Bolsheviks leader was Lenin. He was again a very, very famous leader in the Russian Revolution who started actually the Russian Revolution. So their leader was Lenin, who constituted a majority of the socialists. They wanted to work for revolution. They wanted a revolution in the country. They favored a disciplined party. They don't want all the people to become the members of the party. So they wanted a disciplined party where there will be few members only. Now, why they were disciplined party? Because to control the members and quality of its members. Because if everybody comes and joins the party, everybody may not be having the skills. So the quality of the party will deteriorate. That is why he wanted a party where the members are of good qualities. Here qualities means not the qualities which you are thinking. Qualities means good leadership qualities, those who wanted the revolution. They wanted to make the party an instrument for bringing about the revolution. They wanted to make a party where they can do a proper revolution and remove monarchy from the country and bring communist form of government in the country. That is the belief of Bolsheviks. So children, learn the differentiation between the Mensheviks and the Bolsheviks party and the leaders name, that who are Mensheviks and who are Bolsheviks. After we do children, we will do the next continuation part, that is the conditions of workers in Russia, which will be followed by your 1904 and 05 revolution and also Bloody Sunday. So almost you are slowly heading towards the revolution. So before we actually start with the revolution, we need to study the conditions of the society. So that's what we are doing, children. So let's continue in the next video, children. Conditions of workers in Russia. That's all for today. Have a good day, student, and please go through these videos again and again so that you can understand this Russian revolution very clearly. That's all, children. Have a good day.